Well, good evening, intentional streamers. Welcome to another exciting edition of Intentional Streaming with your host, Brad.
Howdy, football partners.
Jarvis.
Giddy up.
and me, Flip. Yippee-ki-yo.
No, we won't say that.
Not going to finish that. We had I had a little technical difficulties last week, and this week I'll do much better. I want to just start out reminding everybody, make sure you hit the subscribe button, then hit the bell. I will let you know when we go live each week. I think that's really it. Let's jump right into it with Brad and the waiver forecast for the upcoming week.
Better start off with the quarterbacks this week. Stefan's in some desperate need. He's got both his quarterbacks on bye week 7, but he's gotten kind of lucky. There's 2 quarterbacks out there, and I'm not sure if he's going to get much competition in bidding against them, because I don't know if people are going to make any roster space for them. And one's Osweiler, and the other one is Derek Anderson.
Okay, guys, you heard that. We got 4 minutes to waiver runs. Let's get out there. Let's block him. Put in big bids for these guys. We don't want Stefan to have an option this week.
I think anybody who's playing against him would be crazy not to try to make a little bit of roster room.
Absolutely. If for no other reason to just prevent him from getting a quarterback. I've done that before. I'm not saying anybody's really going to do it this week, but Stefan actually is really lucky. He does have 2 options this week.
And, it couldn't happen to blocking the nicer guy here, too, because he'll rub your nose in it if he beats you with one quarterback, and you all know that.
And with his roster, he could.
Yes.
And if we could move on over to the running backs.
Eek.
Yeah, it's pretty much if you need somebody for a week or a dart throw, I guess you go the Juzek. I never say his name right, but
it's Juszczyk.
Yeah, Use.
Mm-hmm.
I got to take that J
off. It's a pretty big dumpster fire at running back.
Jamal Williams, I guess, and I guess Booker's been still seeing time on the field, so.
I don't understand that, but that's a whole other story.
And that's pretty much what I was looking at for the running backs. And wide receivers is kind of another little mess, not a whole lot there. Maybe Curse might be picked up this week, especially with Enunwa and Pryor injuries. Enunwa's definitely out. Pryor could miss the game.
Yeah, see, I think Jermaine Curse is the absolute locked and loaded number 1 target for wide receiver pickup this week. With both of those guys out, I mean, and I'll hit on this a little bit later in the show, a little foreshadowing there for you. But yeah, like with him coming in this week due to injuries, he saw a lot of targets there. So
yeah, 10 targets last week.
Yeah, and I kind of see that trend coming, for at least continuing for the next couple weeks.
Yeah, and it's been going that way. Darnold's been going to the slot receiver. He loves slot, and that was Enunwa's position. Pryor kind of slipped in there, got the targets last week. Curse will go into the slot, so I don't see any letdown for.
Well, the only problem is he might like the slot, but look at some of those prior week numbers: 3 of 6, 35, 2 of 5, 23, 1 of 4 for 14. Is he really, was last week an anomaly, or was it?
It was availability.
So. Yeah. Yep.
But, I mean, he actually did make the best of his targets. We'll see.
It all comes down to opportunity, and right now he's going to get a lot of it.
So, Cole Beasley, you're going to call, was that an anomaly last week? Was that just a fluke? That's 9 of 11, 2 touchdowns.
Another dart throw in my book.
I think, me personally, I kind of think it falls in the realm of fool's gold, but.
Right. I mean, you can't guess which week.
Exactly.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I was just pointing out the big 31.
Yeah. And maybe somebody will go in with Jordan Matthews, see if he just another dart throw, because he doesn't have any specific what am I trying to say here? Numbers that are going to back up for targets per week.
And can the guy actually stay healthy too?
Right.
On top of it, he only had 3 targets last week. One the week before. I don't know. That'd be a guy that's hard to roster, I would think.
And Richardson's available, but he's
Tony?
Nope. It's the Richardson that's
Paul.
in the Washington.
And why he's not actually rostered right now, I'm kind of surprised.
He really, he had those couple of good games, but then he didn't do anything. And,
Mike was in a situation where he had to drop him, I think.
He's been nursing injuries on and off, just like Crowder, so it's kind of why he's probably hasn't gotten as much run. That's what I was looking at. Maybe if Kupp misses, there could be a dart throw for Josh Reynolds on the Rams. Other than that, I wasn't really looking at much else for receivers.
Any tight ends out there, Brad?
If somebody needs a tight end in a pinch, you could go Ben Watson, Gates, or Hireman. Those are the 3 I was looking at.
It's pretty barren. You had a couple of guys go off last week, but, Vernon Davis, he's been inept all year.
I'm not sure if I really seen anybody that had a need for a tight end.
No, I think all the decent ones, and I say decent because there's only a handful of really good ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to bring up kicker one time because there's one team that will need one, and it's F&G. So there's Jason Myers, Robbie Gould, and Aldrich Rosas. Rosas.
Well, and that's the thing, it's kind of funny if you actually look at the overall on kickers. There's top 2 guys aren't rostered. 3 out of the top 8 aren't even rostered.
Yeah, and there was 4 out of the top 10 last week, so
I
think a couple of them got picked up.
This guy here, what's he thinking? 24th? Yeah, I want that guy. He did miss a few weeks, so I'll give Jarvis a break.
What?
I was talking about your
kicker.
24th.
I finally got flipped talking about kickers.
Do you have Dan Bailey
or
not?
Yeah, I sure do.
Okay.
Yeah, but hey, he's back.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think we're done talking kickers.
I think we should probably move on. Well, we've got it's a couple minutes after 8, so those waivers should be
posting real soon.
Yep, coming through in a second. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of moves some people make. I know. So this is we got another little bit of bye week issues this week. I think next week and the week after are going to be the real big ones. But I know some people are going to be out there struggling with some week 7 bye weeks. So it'll be interesting to see, what kind of free agent moves are made this, today. So hopefully that thing will come through here in a second, and then we can kind of go over and review and see what people have done.
Well, I'll hit the news and notes for the week real quick while that's waiting to run. The big one, Josh Allen, out for 2 to 3 weeks. He really escaped a serious injury. It's to his UCL. I can't actually tell you. Jarvis could probably explain a little more on that. But if he would have damaged that a little more, he would have had to have Tommy John surgery, and that could have been career-threatening there.
Yeah, that's the ulnar cruciate ligament, right?
I'll play.
In the arm?
Yeah, it's in his arm.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Waivers just ran.
Okay, so Osweiler's also going to be starting over an injured Tannehill. There is a little bit of controversy that Tannehill practiced last week and then all of a sudden came up and didn't play. So the NFL is actually investigating that.
Yeah, they didn't report the injury.
Yeah, probably really nothing's going to come of that as usual. And he is going to be going up against the Lions. The other big news, Devontae Freeman done for the year.
Big surprise. It kind of came out of the blue.
That's a big blow too.
Well, and
Unless you had Ito Smith.
Because it's been drug out for so long and we never got any answers, and then all of a sudden now it's just
It pops up, yeah.
And Tevin Coleman hasn't exactly been running with that either, and they've been, Ito Smith is the goal line vulture there.
Well, and the Falcons play on Monday night this week, don't they?
Oh, I didn't look.
I think they do, and they announced that Devonta Freeman was going to be out of that game on Monday, so a week in advance. So you kind of had to read the writing on the wall. If they're going to rule someone out that far in advance, you just kind of had to know something was up. Mm-hmm. So big blow for Devonta Freeman and his owners being out for the year. So fire up your Tevin Colemans, fire up your Ito Smiths if someone grabbed him this week.
Looks like Le'Veon Bell is not reporting again this week.
Still on his jet ski.
Yeah,
the saga continues.
And if you missed him spanking the strippers behind a few weeks ago, it's well worth 8 seconds of your life.
He doubled up. He's got 2 strippers in front of him, so he can slap them with each hand.
So
just got to show that versatility on and off the field.
Yeah, exactly. Here's an interesting aspect with this, actually. Le'Veon Bell does not actually have to report week 10 to become a free agent. He only has, because he's a vested free agent. So he could theoretically come. I think he does need to be active 2 games or maybe 1 game, but the Steelers could play a little hardball, and they could actually use an exempt on him for up to 2 weeks, 2 games. So we'll see if he comes in maybe next Monday, maybe this weekend, maybe week 10, maybe a week 11, maybe week 14. We just don't know what's going on there right now.
What's the percentage of that locker room that really wants him to come in?
I think there's going to be a little dispute there. Le'Veon Bell does give them the best chance to win, and sitting at 3-2-1, you can't tell me they don't want a 3-time Pro Bowl running back that's been over 2,000 yards total for his career in a single year. They're not going to shun that kind of a guy. They're not going to shun that kind of talent. Jarvis and I were talking earlier with James Conner. Conner's done well, but he is no Le'Veon Bell.
As far as talent, but production, we have to say yes.
And that's what I was like.
But when you look at Conner, and Conner's under, 4 yards a carry for half the season. Yeah, where he's really getting it done is in the passing game. I'm very surprised that's a guy who only caught 21 passes for his most productive year in college.
And and what I was saying to Flip is that the fact is that you're coming, from a Le'Veon Bell type guy, arguably one of the best running backs, if not the best running back in the game, and then you're going to a new guy where his production value is actually pretty high. You're gonna, in your back of your mind, you're gonna want to compare him to a Le'Veon Bell. And there's just really no comparison there. But as far as what Brad said, as far as the production goes, he's absolutely on pace to just, have a very, very solid year. So
absolutely.
Those guys in the locker room have also got to be thinking about the fact that, all right, this guy's been here the whole time. We've been, going to battle with him every day. He's been here the whole time. So there's something to be said about that too.
And we'll see how much that really comes into play. There has been talk where there's been a lot of players disgruntled about, Bell not being there. But when it comes down to winning games, even if the guy's a total jerk face, they're still gonna bring him in if he starts producing. They're gonna bring him back into the fold. The last thing I have here is just little NFL related. The Chargers will the Chargers actually stay in LA? Their terrible PCL sales. That's the personal. I'm drawing a blank on the C. It's the personal seat license, and the sales are just abysmal, and they are just the little brother right now to the Rams. Everybody's loving the Rams and doesn't care about the Chargers.
But they are bleeding money, so it'd be hard to keep them there and say that they won't go bankrupt.
Well, there's so much revenue sharing and so forth in the league. That's not going to happen. I wouldn't.
But if you need to field a competitive team, it kind of puts them at a disadvantage.
I don't think so. I think most teams in the NFL are making $200 million. And that's after expenses. That's not before the $180 million they spend on the salary cap. I would find it hard to see a team in today's market struggling financially like that. Let's did those waivers run then?
Yes, sir.
Looks like it.
Okay, let me see what I did with them. Alrighty.
Boom, there we go.
Ooh, $301 to Stefan. No, he pulled out his wallet.
Yep. For a rental.
Yeah,
But he had to, Can't fault him.
Don't want to take zero
that's
any position.
Pretty big money out of Torrey right there, I would say, for
Wow.
Raheem?
He took the bait.
I don't even know what he is.
Raheem Mostert?
No. Is he a number 2 running back? Is he a number 3 running back?
Well, I think that the way he played this week, he could have absolutely leapfrogged Alfred Morris. Because, I made that comment to you Monday, and I was like, I had never seen this guy play before in my life. And he was running. I was like, man, that guy is fast.
And then the coach says, it was just a one-game thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, if it pans out, if he plays the way that he did on Monday night, like, it wouldn't surprise me one bit to have him get some volume in that offense.
I'm kind of chuckling here. I'm looking at the price for Buda Baker, and then I see other people bid 7 cents on him, 50 cents on him, $10.23. And that just shows, it's tough to gauge what a player's worth in this league.
Especially if they're a safety.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And there's jumping on Cole Beasley for Will. There's your Jermaine Kearse, actually quite cheap.
Yeah.
Good job there, Jarvis. Mike grabbing a linebacker who I really do like was Zach Cunningham.
Look at Torrey right there with that Colts defense going up against the Bills this week with Derek Anderson starting. That's a great pickup by Torrey. That's a great streaming pickup. And for only $7.35, that's absolutely well worth that money.
Darky jumping on the best kicker in the league. The Jesse James was actually a mistake. I'm going to have to eat it for a week.
Yeah, and Gary can have Mark Barron. I have some bad
little bad memories.
I have some bad memories about it. No, Mark Barron's actually a really good linebacker. I just
decided not to play much last week.
It wasn't last week. It was more the playoffs last year.
I lost a flip by just over a point, and Mark Barron, I had started him, and he got me 0 because he got hurt on the very first drive. So if he could have at least recorded a tackle, I could have won the championship last year. So, but no, honestly, Mark Barron, great linebacker. He's young, strong, athletic. I think that's a good pickup by Gary.
And then for me, adding Adam Humphries, just a little depth. My wide receivers are a little bit shaky at the bottom. Definitely going to have some bye week issues coming up. So all in all, there's some very interesting pickups there.
Yeah, nothing too surprising.
Yeah, we all knew Stefan was going to go big on the quarterbacks, but I still think that overall, probably the best pickup was Torrey's Indianapolis Colts D.
Now, do you notice something that's missing here?
What, your kicker?
There's no Derek Anderson on that list.
Well, no, Stefan put in for him.
Oh, see, he screwed up his waivers.
Oh, okay. Wait. See, why didn't he get Derek Anderson instead of Brock Osweiler?
Because he stuck him. Because he bid
at the number 1.
Okay, because he put him number 1.
Then he outbid his number 1 with his number 2.
His number 1. So he did this wrong twice. Hi, Stefan. You did it wrong twice again. So what Stefan should have done was broke this into 2 rounds. If you come down here and actually look to see how I did my wide receivers here. So I put in round 2, I put in for David Moore. Round 3, I put in for Adam Humphries. I'm wanting 2 wide receivers, so I'm using 2 separate rounds to do it. And I put in for none because I actually have spots on my taxi.
Well, hang on. Go back down to Gary's real quick. So Gary added in round 1, Mark Barron dropped Cardinals defense, and he tried to get Christian Kirksey and drop Benjamin.
Okay, see, that's another bad thing to do.
Yeah.
You don't drop different guys in the same round.
Right.
You always want to drop the same guy. Now,
And
the problem here is, and maybe he just wanted one guy. Maybe he wanted to do it that way. I don't think so, but maybe he wanted two defensive guys, which you got to use 2 rounds guys to do this.
And then back up to Stefan's real fast. Like when he put in for Osweiler, drop none, and then for Anderson, drop none. Did you make that change to where the system wouldn't allow you? Because now shouldn't he have been charged another $312 and added Derek Anderson at the same time?
No, because he's putting it all
into one round.
He's putting it into 1 round.
You only get awarded 1 player per round.
I'm thinking of the redraft that was an issue.
The redraft is
okay.
different.
Yeah,
so
my bad.
Yeah, don't think of that.
Disregard that.
So, and that league's actually wrong.
Yes.
It is.
Okay.
So,
but either way, if you guys have questions on waivers and how to submit them correctly, just shoot those questions over to Flip,
and I'll send you over to Jarvis.
Then I'll refer you back to Brad.
Well, I mean, we've gone through this. The problem is we've gone through this a couple of times on the show. I would love for people to actually listen to the show and
are you guys listening?
And take notes here.
Is anybody out there?
Alrighty, let's jump right into Jarvis and his Week 5 recap.
All right, so Week 6, you mean?
Whatever week.
Yep.
I have no idea why I'm a week behind.
I don't know. Well, it's because you took last week off from the podcast. You're spending it down in the bathroom throwing up.
TMI.
Yeah. So anyway, so Week 6 is in the books. Had an interesting week. Had 4 teams that went 2-0. This week we had Mike, Stefan, Darky, and Will go undefeated. Congrats to you guys going 2-0. Then we got the middle of the road guys: Flip, Shannon, Kroll, myself, all go 1-1, and then Luke, JJ, Tori, and Gary, unfortunately, falling to 0-2 this week. Some of the highlights that I saw from this week: we had a couple matchups that were within 10 points of one another. And 2 of them were mine. So me versus Shannon. I had 169.18. Shannon had 161.73. Mike and myself, Mike beat me 178.83 to 169.18. The reason I want to highlight those is because going into Sunday night's game, I thought I had a firm grasp on these games. We all know what happened in that Monday night game with Tyreek Hill.
No defense.
Going
the Sunday night game.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Going off. Got Mike like 39, 40 points, something like that. Ended up pulling within 1 point of me. And then his linebacker outplayed my linebacker. So I ended up falling. But yeah, Shannon, and if you look at the rosters, actually with Shannon and Mike, they had a couple goose eggs on their teams. So who knows what their scores could have been had they been able to get a full roster in there. And then Darky versus Tori. Darky had 167.15, Tori 159.61. So we had some close games there. I wanted to point out an honorable mention game between Flip and Stefan, though. That ended up coming, kind of a little bit closer than what we had hoped. And actually, it looked on at least at halftime of that Monday night game that Flip was going to put up a real fight, but then CJ Beathard just disappeared in that second half.
It was all that late touchdown by by Rodgers, and that really separated the scores there. Without that late touchdown, it was a lot closer. But for me to be rooting, I needed overtime in that game, and it just never happened.
It just didn't pan out. I think Beathard had like 15 or 16 points in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
So to see him come out and only get 2 or 3 points in the second half was a bit of a disappointment because I was rooting for Flip because Stefan is in my division.
Well, and I took a goose egg out of suck up with one of the better scoring kickers, and
yeah,
they got shut out.
Yeah, so crazy week 6 in the books. As of right now, we still have so this week we had a high point featuring Will. He had a 217.73, and low point this week again was JJ, a 113.52. So you see a pretty large disparity there between high and low. As of right now, there's no changes in the high-low point for the year. Reflecting back, Flip still carries the high point lead so far with 220.57 points. That was put up in week 5, and Darky still owns that lowest of lows at 110.67 that he put up in week 1. So if we look over the standings so far, we're looking at Division 1. Flip is currently leading that division at 7-4, followed by Kroll at 6-5, Mike at 4-7.
Look at Mike. I want to point this out real quick. 2 wins got Mike right back into that.
Absolutely.
He was 2-7. And now he's just 3 games back, only 2 games behind Kroll. He's a ton of points back, but 1 week goes a long ways. Really does.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at the overall standings, if we're going to go into the playoffs, and I'll get hit on that in a second, the 4th and the 5th place teams, I mean, they're right there with that, 6 wins, 7 wins, so everybody's still in it except for maybe Luke. But that's not to say that something, can't turn around. So I don't want anybody to give up right now or anything like that because, again, the next teams that are starting to make it in on the record really only have like 6 wins.
Yeah. And like you were pointing out, you said the 3 division winners, and let's go back to that a little more.
Yeah, so if the playoffs were to start today, the number 1 seed would be Stefan. He's got a 10-1 record. The number 2 seed would be Will at 8-3 because he's a division winner there with the best record out of him and Flip. Flip's leading that Division 1. So the top 3 division winners are Stefan, Will, and Flip in that order. The 4th seed would be myself based off of record. The 5th seed would be Kroll based off of record. And as you can see right there, Kroll has 6. He's 6-5. So you throw in Mike carrying on that win streak. He's up to 4-7. He's really only 2 games out. And then the 6th seed would be Shannon, and that's based off of points. So we've got a lot of people still in the mix on this. So it'll be really exciting. And again, we're hitting the heart of those bye weeks, these bye-pocalypse. So again, roster management, start-sit decisions are going to come into play here.
And you kind of look at that where Shannon's sitting at 10-15. Yeah, you got 140 points between him and Luke. But there's a lot of other guys. Gary's sitting right there.
Yeah, Gary's at 1,000.
Gary's at 3-8. And that 6th place doesn't matter with record 1 bit.
Nope, not at all.
Torrey's not even 100 back from him, is he? So yeah, Torrey's like 70 points back.
Yeah.
With bye weeks, that's easily made up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, don't get discouraged if you've been knocked around or beat up a little bit so far to this point. Just continue to roster your best team because you never know what's going to happen. That 6th spot, regardless, if you're 1-25, I don't think we play that many games, but you know what I'm saying. If you still have the best points, the 6 best points or whatever, you're in. You're in.
Agreed.
And then so along with that, I know there's a segment we want to hit on real quick. Flip, you want to go over the current 3-year point totals for the running for that $300 prize pool?
Yeah, what we do is each year Each year, $100 is taken out of the prize pool, and it's given out to the guy who scores the most over a 3-year period. So here is the point totals for the first 2 years right here. Now, I got to double check on this, so don't quote me on this, but I'm thinking it does not, that it only goes through the regular season. I don't think it goes the whole 16 weeks, but I got to double check on that. So heading into this season, you see how close Will and I were. We're separated by, under 2 points. And then so far this year, there's been, Will and I, Will's still up there. Stefan had such a bad first year that don't even count him anymore. So really, we're sitting here with Will with a 40-point lead over me. Big shout out to you, Will. It'd been nip and tuck until you put up the 217 or so this week. Good job there. And that's where we got our separation, or quite a bit. Jarvis, I would say, is still in the hunt. Maybe a little bit on the outside.
Yeah, I'm going to need like a secretariat type second half of the season to even come close. But so I think it's definitely looking between Will and Flip at this point.
And I just, 500 points made up from Torrey. Boy, I just don't think that can be. I just don't think that can be done. I really don't. So, I mean, that's going to be a fun battle. It's a nice little chunk of change. It really shows the importance of keeping on your roster in your lineups week in and week out. Shannon won the scoring title the first year and then had a terrible second year. And, struggling this year, and his 3-year total showing there. So while the season is always, important to put in your lineup, just because that sixth place is about total points, you're still playing each week, for 48 weeks or whatever it is for the $300. So, alrighty, well, big shout out to Will there for putting a little space there. Now we'll get into our favorite section here, our supers and poopers. Well, we'll go with Brad first off here with his supers.
Oh, me go first.
Sure.
Well, I decided to go with Adam Thielen as my super. Now, this guy is just having an amazing year. This week, he scored 29.3 points in Week 6 with 11 receptions, 123 yards, a touchdown on 15 targets. And this guy has been going crazy. He's got 6 straight weeks of over 100 yards receiving. And there's only one other person that's done it since 1961.
60, yeah.
Something in there.
So this is the only time in the Super Bowl era that this has happened.
Yeah.
Right?
This is crazy. And if it can continue, he's the number 1 point receiver in fantasy this year with 153.2 points.
I don't see any reason why it stops this week. Against the Jets?
I wouldn't think so.
This guy is just locked and loaded.
And Cousins loves him.
The 22 ranked Jets defense. No reason to not think so.
Yeah. And again, this guy just signed a 4-year contract just last year. He was an undrafted free agent that the Vikings signed. And you don't see this happen that often with receivers.
No, not at all. I mean, the level of consistency that he's putting out right now is just phenomenal.
Your super there, Jarvis?
My super this week is going to go back to a guy that I touched briefly on a little bit ago. This is Tyreek the Freak Hill. 7 receptions, 142 yards, 3 touchdowns on 12 targets. 39.2 points. This guy single-handedly propelled Mike to a victory. Well done, Mike. Kudos to you. Tyreek Hill is a freak show. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Like, this guy,
1 attempt, no rushing. Come on. How's he really that special?
I don't know what defenses can do to scheme against this guy, because if you get him in the open, he can fly past people in a matter of a split second. You get the ball in his hands. He's faster than anybody on the planet, it seems like. A lot of those matchups just seem unfair at times. He's making people look ridiculous, especially on those deep routes, and he cuts across the middle. It's crazy. What a weapon. What a weapon. And again, this was another showcase of that. So,
and not looking at this, the scary thing is he's only 24.
Yeah. Wow. And
dynasty asset, man.
Yeah.
That's huge.
A lot of those big name fantasy producers in Kansas City are pretty young. So,
and I'll go with my super here, and this definitely affected Stefan. Gave him. Did Stefan come up with second high point of the week?
Second high. Yep. There's two people over 200.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, it put him over 200 points. 13 for 130, 10 yards per carry. How sick is that? That's just nuts. And then 9 for 99. That's 11 yards 11 yards per catch. And that's 9 out of 12. I don't think Eli Manning has hit 9 out of 12 targets to anybody since he was in college.
Well, and so, I was watching this game, and one thing is very apparent. Like, one, Eli Manning is not the same Eli Manning that once was. The Giants' offensive line is like 5 revolving doors that people can just run through. Do you suppose that right now his fantasy production and the amount of targets and receptions he's getting is a product of both of those kind of coming to an end? Because Eli has no time in the back, when he drops back. He doesn't have time to look for those deep routes. He wasn't throwing the ball more than 5-10 yards down the field at all. These little dump passes to Saquon is an easy out for him, and he's putting it in a playmaker, the guy that's just a freak show talent that can turn a 2-yard dump pass into an 80-yard touchdown. I think there's something to be said about that.
There's a lot of Marshall Faulk in him, I'd really say. And that was against the number 2 pass or rush ranked defense with the Eagles last week, where he put up 10 yards per carry. That's impressive.
But yeah, the talent is there. The guy is absolutely insane as far as talent. Man, he's fun to watch. He really is fun to watch.
All right, Brad, your pooper.
A little disappointed in this guy, especially he was going up against a Falcons Civ defense that lets anybody catch passes. My pooper is Mike Evans this week. He only came up with 9.8 points. He did get 4 receptions, but only 58 yards, no touchdowns, and only got targeted 5 times against the Atlanta defense. I really don't know what was going on in this one.
That is such a shocker.
Everyone was expecting him to blow up.
Yeah, and why wouldn't you against that defense? In a game when Jameis Winston had 40 points, and he was all but left out of it.
Alrighty, Jarvis, your plopper.
Yep, this is a guy on my team. Big reason why I ended up going 1-1. Jarvis Landry.
Oh, with a name like that, what do you expect?
Stop it. Jarvis Landry, 2 receptions, 11 yards on 9 targets, 3.1 points. Handed me a big contributing factor as to why I was handed a loss this week. I don't know. I didn't get a chance to watch the game. A guy that's coming away with 2 receptions, 11 yards, and 9 targets. He's still one of the top target getters in the league. So I don't know if that's him dropping some passes maybe he should have come down with, or if it's the fact that Mayfield is, missing him on these. Because if you look at that target share versus the production, there's kind of a disparity there. So anytime that I'm rolling out my number 3 wide receiver that I'm expecting a big game out of and needing a big game out of coming away with 3 points. I mean, really, he's only had 1 game over 20 points all year. Other than that, he's been in that low to mid-teen range. And then throwing up a pooper like this, that hurt. And I felt it this week. So, Yeah, definitely. My pooper this week, Jarvis Landry.
Expect a big redeem on this coming week against
the
Bucks.
Yeah, I'm optimistic
definitely.
there. So if he doesn't perform this week, then I think panic mode is going to be setting in.
My pooper, I'm going to send out to JJ, and boy, JJ, him and I have done some trades in multiple leagues this year, and they just haven't quite worked out very well for him. I sent him Dante Moncrief right before noon on Sunday for a 4th rounder, and 0 for 3 on targets. And this is a guy who had been getting 6 and 5, and I mean, he had 2 bad weeks, but he had 2 good weeks with touchdowns thrown in there. But a big goose egg against is the Cowboys defense for real?
They got to be semi-legitimate. They're holding their team together. Except for somehow their offense shows up against the Jaguars last week, which is not an oddity in itself.
That's the parody of the NFL. You know?
That's why they play the game.
Any given Sunday.
All right. Enough of that. Let's head over and take a look at this week's matchups. From top to bottom, there's so many great games, and you can tell by the, and I know some guys might not have their full lineups in yet, but when you see so many of these being under 10 points, though, that's some doggone good games that we're going to come up and see here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It does look like there's some good matchups on the horizon for this week, so this will be a fun one to watch and pay attention to.
Even a 20-point spread is not big enough, especially when a guy can put up 40 points on you.
Yeah, agreed.
Yep.
Agreed. And, one of the bigger ones right off the bat is Kroll and I. This will be for either I cement the division lead for another week, or I'm looking at his taillights again like I did most of the year. And we both have bye week issues. I have my Steelers, and I guess he doesn't really care with Aaron Jones, but he does. And he's got Gronk, so that doesn't really matter for him.
I think you got to be worried about the way Tariq Cohen's playing lately.
With no who's the other running back?
Jordan Howard,
with him being a nobody right now,
which is just shocking. I still don't get that. But
and Mike, it looks like Mike doesn't have a full lineup in yet, so that's definitely going to change. And Mike's on his win streak.
And it does look like, Dalvin Cook could be a go for this week. He practiced in full today, so he may be getting Dalvin Cook back, which is going to be a huge boost to him.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Losing Tyler Lockett does hurt a bit, and he's throwing in Josh Gordon. I could just see this be the week that Josh Gordon is, the favorite target.
He's playing more and more. He played in over 80% of the offensive snaps this last week, so... But he's going against a very tough Bears defense in Chicago, and Chicago plays a lot harder.
Tough Bears defense?
Yes.
Did we not watch Brock Osweiler?
Hey, I know. Again, parody of the NFL any given Sunday.
Brock list monster.
Yeah.
Then we get into, Gary and Mike.
This could be another good one. I know their projected point total is very low, but I don't see them scoring that low.
No. And here actually is one of my sleepers here. With Gary. Here, we'll see how much heat I'm going to take with this. And Kelvin Benjamin. This is against the Colts' terrible defense. This is my sleeper for the week. And this is why I'm tossing him out there. 6 targets, 5 targets, 6 targets, 7 week 1. But it's just the poor amount of receptions that's making him irrelevant.
Now, are you putting in consideration that you think Derek Anderson's going to change that?
I don't think Derek Anderson can hurt that one bit. Derek Anderson's been a viable backup quarterback in this league a long time, 10 years or so.
I mean, I think it's like one of those you puke guys, like you say it and you kind of want to throw it, but it does make sense. It really does. And I'm not going to be surprised one bit if Kelvin Benjamin has a big game this week.
Well, and you're going up against the 26th ranked pass defense in the league.
Yeah, and look at the Colts. Like, their offense is all exclusively through Andrew Luck. Like, he's on pace to set like a record this year as far as pass attempts go. So they're not running the ball a lot. So they're going to be wanting to throw the ball.
So my question to you two is, who would you sit for him? Would you sit Ginn? Stills?
I would sit
Westbrook?
Ginn.
As of now, we don't know if Ginn's going to play anyway, but
True. Yeah, so that would be my sleeper so far.
And the reason I would sit Ginn is just because they've got Melvin Ingram back, they got Kamara, Michael Thomas,
but they are going up against the Ravens. So, do you want to run against them or try to pass against them? It's a tough decision there.
It is.
I was trying to break that game down just because. Is it going to be more? I would assume you're going to try to get Kamara more involved with them possibly stopping the run and then him catching more passes out of the backfield. But Ingram can do the same thing.
Yeah, he can.
Gary and Kroll. I mean, Gary and Kroll.
Yeah.
Another good battle. Kroll for the division lead. Gary to get back, continue the playoff hunt. And I think Gary did pick up a linebacker today. Is that correct? Yeah, he picked up Mark Barron. That's right. So his score is going to be propped up a little bit.
Yeah.
He does have, Wilson on a bye, Lynch on a bye. That does hurt. Martavis.
Cooper Kupp being hurts too.
Yes. Yeah, that's probably a huge one. Probably even bigger than anything else.
And Sanu.
So, but he's got Kelvin Benjamin. I got Kelvin Benjamin.
He's going to really have to think hard about doing that. Just because it's his only other choice.
Now we come to, Will with his big points against a really struggling team and Luke. But it's a good matchup.
Look for Dalton to throw up a 35-40 point game this week. I'm calling it.
Will's looking like he's probably going to have to throw in maybe Beasley. A new one's not going to play. Fuller
against the
Jags. Losing, not having Brown hurts.
I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm just going to say I think Luke could be in contention for a 200-point week this week. If you look at his lineup from top to bottom, he's got some really good matchups. And I have a feeling this is his week.
I hope Luke is listening to this because I'm going to tell you right now, you got to pick up a defensive player on Friday. Got to. You don't have a backup and yours is out.
Yep.
Have to. I don't know if you have one on your taxi squad. No. I'm going to assume if you don't pick up one Friday, you're going to be hearing from me try to screw you over on a draft pick.
So, I mean, Will's going to throw up Will Fuller, right, in place of Antonio Brown.
That would be my guess. I think he'd go Fuller over Beasley.
I would take that chance. Fuller over Beasley for sure.
So that should be a pretty good matchup.
That'll be fun to watch. I'm calling it right now. Luke, 200-point game this week.
Ooh, bold move.
Yep.
Bold move.
Yep. I like the matchups.
Luke and Gary is about the same again. Give Luke a defensive player that's. I don't know why they actually have Boston in there at 7, but whatever. If you're calling it 200, you're gonna have Gary mad at you on Monday.
Probably. He's mad anyway.
Yeah, he's always mad. he doesn't listen to these anyway, so. Darky and Shannon, another really good matchup with a lot of implications here. Two teams that are battling it out for, playoff spots.
And look at Darky. All right, you got 3 running backs here. I want to address this real quick because actually one of them is my sit of the week in Alex Collins. I think that you've got to play Ingram and McCaffrey this week over him. The reason I say that is because Collins is at home against the Saints. Now, the Saints have only allowed 357 yards on the ground, believe it or not. Now, granted, they had last week off as a bye, so some other teams have had some opportunities to rack up a little bit more yards, but they're really only averaging 3.1 yards per carry, which is actually the best in the NFL. Collins has some fumble issues, and he's had them throughout his whole career. So the way that things are looking, this could be more of a pass-heavy game script, which could mean more action for Buck Allen coming out of that backfield. If the Colts can get out there and score quickly, Buck Allen would be the guy that I would want to start there in that matchup. What's also kind of cool, and this is a side note, it has nothing to do with Alex Collins or anything like that, but I didn't realize, but Drew Brees has beaten every team in the NFL except the Ravens. He's 0-4 lifetime against them.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to point out, though, is he will probably put Marcus Mariota in there over a third running back.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I should have pointed that out.
And that's probably, I guess, why I was assuming that he was only going to be starting 2 running backs.
Yeah. Let's move on. Oh, and he didn't have a kicker in there, so. Oh, well.
Yeah, he just picked him up.
Oh, he just picked him up. Okay. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm lost in La La Land here, I guess.
So he's got the kicker says it's for 10 points.
Yeah, so that puts him, in a dead heat
right
there, basically. And same thing with him and Will, right there. Actually, he'd have a little. Well, once Will throws in that wide receiver, and that's also division right there. Some of these division guys like Will gets knocked off, and that middle division where it actually is, I think Will's got 8 wins, and that would reel him in pretty quick going 0-2.
Crazy week to be that close in matchups. This deep in the schedule for the year.
We moved to Torrey and Corn Ranch. Now, here is going to be my start of the week. And the reason why I'm calling this my start of the week, because he's got a big quandary to deal with there. He's got 3 quarterbacks. He's got Eli Manning sitting on the bench against the Falcons. And Stafford against the Dolphins. The Dolphins really aren't that good on defense. And then Flacco against the Saints. Well, that should be a shootout. So my start of the week is actually Flacco and Stafford over Eli Manning. And
double time.
Leaving the lineup just like that. That's tough. That's tough to sit Eli against the Falcons. What do you guys think?
I think you have to. Until something changes on that Giants offensive line that gives him more of an opportunity to throw it to his receivers versus just his running back out of the backfield, you have to. And these are 2 favorable matchups, just like you pointed out. I think that you're absolutely dead on the money with this.
Brad must
I'm not going to jump on that Eli Manning grenade anytime.
Yeah. No, as sad as it sounds, I think, if he has an opportunity to start those 2 guys every week, you got to do it. Leave Eli on the bench.
You're trying to get the most points out of every player you start, and even though Eli Manning has the so-called better matchup, he still hasn't really shown the ability to come through for you.
Mm-hmm. And that matchup's going to suck up a lot closer once hopefully JJ actually sticks Prescott in there. I mean, he's got one of his defensive guys on bye, so you would think that he would.
Yeah, so I mean that's a decision Torrey's going to have to make. I'll tell you one decision he's not going to have to make, and that is starting my start of the week, Tyler Boyd. Check this out. So Tyler Boyd, so he's going up against the Chiefs in Kansas City. So we're going to expect like a shootout coming because that's the way the Bengals games have kind of always gone. They absolutely trust this guy as their wide receiver 2, and I don't even know if I want to say wide receiver 2 anymore. I want to say like between him and A.J. Green, 1A, 1B. The reason I say that, if you look through so far to this year, A.J. Green compared to Tyler Boyd. Okay, A.J. Green, 55 targets. Tyler Boyd, 52 targets. A.J. Green, 494 yards. Tyler Boyd, 455 yards. A.J. Green, 5 touchdowns. Tyler Boyd, 4 touchdowns. A.J. Green, 112 fantasy points. Tyler Boyd, 107 fantasy points. AJ Green is averaging 18.7 points per game. Tyler Boyd is averaging 17.9 points per game. This is just as good of a receiver as AJ Green. It's showing through the year, and they're going against a defense that's ranked 31st against the pass in a game that is a heavy passing game script. I see Tyler Boyd having another 20, 30-point game, just like he did last week. Absolutely locked and loaded. Start of the week for me. Tori, feel very good about that.
I definitely agree. You're going to have to sling the ball unless somehow Cincinnati slows down Kansas City's offense. There's no way.
And we haven't seen
points.
that. We haven't seen that yet. So,
we get the Steph in here, and we got to make point out that he did pick up Osweiler.
I'd still start Rodgers over.
And Brad with his fantasy football knowledge, right there. No, but look, you can't. Oh, whoops! Sorry, oops, wrong guy. Fumble. Osweiler last week, look at 30 points against, what was probably maybe at the time a top 10 pass defense, or so.
However, so
380 though.
I'll do it. I'll step on this. I am going to say the Lions are my sleeper start of the week.
Oh.
I'm not sure
they will pick off Osweiler, pick 6. Not a guarantee.
With that Darius Slay.
So when you look at Osweiler's week this last week, he had 380 passing yards?
Yep.
Okay.
He threw the ball only 44 times for that. That is.
Can you jump over to Albert Wilson's week? I don't know if you can quickly find him or if anybody's.
Nah, I probably could.
Does anybody have him?
None in this league.
Actually, let me double check here because I'm curious to find out because if you remember right,
Albert Wilson did not do anything last week.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
No, last week.
No, I'm sorry. I'm thinking Sammy Watkins. My bad.
Uh-oh. Okay, so Albert Wilson. Here we go. Albert Wilson this last week had 6 receptions, 155 yards, 9 targets, 2 touchdowns. 2 of those, I know one of them was like 70 yards, and another one was like, 50?
50 or so, yeah. It was crazy.
Yeah, so he had well over 100 of those yards on 2 plays that were broken coverages that Albert Wilson was able to scat behind. So I don't want to take anything away from him, but we all know who Brock Osweiler is. This is a really great game from him.
Go Lions.
I just don't know. So
he still put up his typical two interceptions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brock Osweiler, he does have some good years underneath his belt. I wouldn't say great years. 10-6, 15-16, 5-5. He does have plenty of NFL experience.
Almost broke 3,000 yards one year.
And he's really tall.
And
he's really good at being tall.
Yeah, he is about 6'7".
I don't know if maybe in my hostility. I don't want to say hostility, but my
I think you're being hostile.
Well, what word am I looking for? My
bias.
Yeah, my negative bias towards Brock Osweiler stems from him being a Bronco and.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Yep, and then seeing him travel from team to team and getting what he deserves.
This is where you got to separate.
No, I know. I know.
There,
I know. But the thing was, and the thing that Stefan can be optimistic about is the fact that he was going in to a matchup where everybody thought the Chicago Bears were going to just dismantle the Miami Dolphins. And he comes away with 380 yards and 3 touchdowns, 30-point game. Tip of the hat to him, to be honest with you. I'm not a fan of his, but he played really well. And who knows what this week will be. We'll see.
All right, and then one of the big matchups of the week is Stefan and Jarvis. And it's a 20-point difference, but that will get closer with the Osweiler thrown in there.
Yeah.
As well. That's going to be for the division again. Well, division lead. Possibly again. Just great matchups all the way up and down there.
I would have to say that from top to bottom, I think this week has been the most intriguing as far as upcoming matchups that I've seen so far to date. We've got a lot of stuff on the line, a lot of implications, a lot of division implications.
Bye week problems, trying to
Yeah.
rear their heads, and
Absolutely. This is fun.
Yeah, definitely so. Definitely so. And the last one is Jarvis and Torrey here. You know, another solid matchup. You know, Torrey trying to scratch his way back. He is missing defense there. So
Yeah.
that's
When he
gonna be
puts
close.
that in, yeah, absolutely. That'll even the projected points out a
Well,
little bit more. No.
that puts it less than a point there or so.
Yep. And he's got the Colts defense, that sneaky pick, man, against the Bills and Derek Anderson. So
okay. Well, that definitely, we covered a lot of ground tonight in another awesome show, I believe. We do appreciate everybody who has come and listened to us live and has yet to hear us. So
here's to week 7.
here's to week 7.
Here's to week Elway, as I like to say.
Elway.
oh,
Yeah.
I would go more Big Ben. I'm not sure what Brad would go, but
And I'm glad we're doing it live so that way Flip can't edit that one out.
yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening to another podcast of Intentional Streaming. We will catch you next week. Thank you.
Check you later.